Hey everyone, today we're diving into something that millions of students across India deal with, but we don't always talk about it out loud: math phobia. It's this deep anxiety that can take a subject that's all about logic and beauty and turn it into something genuinely scary. So let's get into how that happens and what we can actually do about it. It's kind of like there are two different Indias. On one side, you have this incredible legacy, the land that gave the world the number zero, the home of absolute geniuses like Aryabhatta and Ramanujan. Their work is literally the foundation of modern science. But then you look inside classrooms today and you see a totally different picture, a widespread, almost crippling fear of that exact same subject. So it's this crazy paradox, right? How can a nation with such a rich, brilliant history in mathematics be home to so many students who are just terrified of numbers? That's really the big question we're going to try and answer today. To figure this out, we're going to first unpack that paradox and really define what mathphobia is. Then we'll dig into where that fear comes from, see the vicious cycle it creates, and most importantly, talk about how we can move forward. All right, so first things first, let's get a really clear idea of what we're actually talking about when we use the word mathphobia. So what is it? Well, the official definition is an intense, persistent fear that gets triggered by anything to do with math. And we're not just talking about finding a topic hard. This is a real state of anxiety that can physically and mentally stop someone in their tracks. And listen, this is probably the most important thing to get. Mathphobia has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's a psychological reaction, a fear response that actually blocks your brain's ability to focus and think through a problem. It's all about fear, not about ability. And the symptoms? I bet a lot of us can relate to these. It can show up as major anxiety during a test, or maybe you find yourself avoiding any subject that has numbers in it. It's that feeling of low confidence, even when you know the material. And that classic experience where your mind just goes totally blank during an exam? Yep, that's a huge sign of mathphobia. So if it's not about intelligence, then where does this massive fear actually come from? Let's start unpacking the root causes to see how this anxiety really takes hold. The first big source, and it's a huge one, is the way our education system is built. Here in India, pretty much everything comes down to high-stakes exams. And that system just creates an insane amount of pressure. The whole game becomes about speed, getting that one right answer in this constant fear of failing or getting low marks. For a lot of students, especially if they're the first person in their family to go to college, that pressure is just overwhelming. Math stops feeling like a creative puzzle and starts feeling like a subject packed with risk and failure. Okay, the second major piece of the puzzle is what's happening inside the classroom. That old school lecture style where a teacher just dictates formulas without any real context or discussion, that can be so intimidating. This quote from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam really hits the nail on the head. When students feel like they can't ask questions or get criticized for making a mistake, that classroom stops being a place for learning. It becomes a place of fear. And the whole point of education just gets lost. And finally, cause number 3. This is the pressure that comes from outside the classroom. There's this idea in our society that you're either a math person or you're not, that it's only for the naturally smart people. The great educator Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan believed that education was supposed to build your confidence and your character. But so often, the exact opposite happens. Parents, even with the best intentions, might compare their kids' math scores or say things like, "Oh, you're just not a numbers person." That kind of talk can absolutely crush a kid's self-esteem and plant seeds of fear instead of confidence. So all these things don't just create a little bit of fear. They kick off this really destructive cycle that has a direct impact on a student's performance and, honestly, their whole future. Look at how this spiral works. It starts with intense anxiety. That anxiety just eats up all the mental energy you need to focus, which leads to doing poorly on a test. That failure then cements this idea in your head that you're bad at math, which crushes your self-esteem. And what happens next? You avoid practicing, which just means you're even less prepared for the next test, and the cycle starts all over again. But this time, it's even stronger. And this is where it gets really serious. This isn't just about grades. In the real world, having good quantitative skills is critical for so many jobs. So math phobia doesn't just hurt you in school. It directly limits a young person's career options and their opportunities in life. But here's the good news. It absolutely does not have to be this way. The research also shows us a clear path forward, a way to get from fear to, well, fearlessness. This powerful idea from Swami Vivekananda really frames the solution perfectly. The whole point of education isn't just to stuff our heads with facts, right? It's to build fearless people with real inner strength. And tackling mathphobia is a direct way to make that vision a reality. So, how do we actually do it? Well, the research points to 4 clear strategies. First, we can make teaching more focused on the student, using real-world stuff like budgeting to show why math actually matters. Second, we have to create supportive classrooms where it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to fail. Third, for students who are already deep in that anxiety cycle, we need to make counseling available. And finally, we have to raise awareness with parents and schools to change the story, to help them see it's about fear, not a lack of intelligence. So let's end with this thought. For a nation that has given so much to the world of math, maybe our next great challenge isn't about solving some super complex equation. What if the real key to unlocking the potential of millions of students is just learning how to solve for fear?